Each and every one of us on this planet have two lives. The second life begins the moment you realize you have just one. I don't think I'm truly at peace with myself yet, but I'm certainly a million times better than when I was.
Someone said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
Never give up.
But then you have a setback. What's the best way to get back?
Wow, what a great question.
Before we get started with today's episode, guys, I just want to say a massive thank you for tuning in. If you do end up enjoying the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, let's get started with the episode.
Okay, guys, welcome to the very first episode of Unlock and Elevate. I'm your host, Ashley. The podcast all about growth, fulfillment, and getting that 1% better each and every day. So we all want to live a happier and more fulfilling life, and which is why I'm super excited for the guest that we have on today. We have Spencer, a psychologist with almost 40 years of experience. He's been working in the sector now for quite a long time. And in today's episode, we're going to dive deep into not just being happy, but what happiness really stems from. And that's why I'm super excited to have him on the show today.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Basically, just like the first question, just to get the audience to know a little bit more about yourself, is what got you into psychology, mindset, growth? What got you into everything?
All of that, really. I suppose, truth be told, the way I look at it with my work, I have 40 years transferable skills. I went through a life of wearing constant masks for everything that I ever did. It was very ego-based. It led me to a point, it created some successes, can't deny that. It gave me what I thought was fulfillment. It turned out to be quite the opposite. A lot of people that I speak to, certainly where I'm concerned myself personally, ego is often fear-based. You're hiding from something. It's a coat of armor. I suppose to create a storyboard for it, it would be that my life led me to a point of functioning, but nonetheless an alcoholic and a drug addict. I didn't see it as that at the time. I thought it was a go-lucky party guy, put on a bit of an image. And it came to a point in my life where it was just unmanageable. It was chaotic. So I went into recovery myself, going on for 6 years now, and it was life-changing. There's an old adage that we all use. It's a phrase in Britain, to open a can of worms. It was the most exciting, fulfilling time of my life because every worm that did come out of that can, I was able to be in a safe space and dissect it thoroughly and found out how, when, what, and why the trauma was. And it stemmed right back from the age of 11 when my father passed. Never saw it coming. Huge abandonment issues. During the journey of recovery, however, I found vulnerability is a superpower. Let me start by saying that. I understood very quickly that I was full of fear, full of insecurities. I was a scared little boy in a man's body. But I learned that vulnerability is a superpower. And I opened up, and I continue to open up to this day. But over the course of the studies and the work that I do, again, I'll say it again, vulnerability is a superpower. And it allows us to become our true, authentic self.
It's funny you said, the mask thing, because I was talking to my friend the other day, and I actually said that to him, where I was like, I feel like in life, I'm putting on a different mask for different scenarios, different people. And I wanted to ask, actually, I didn't even have this question written down, but how do you find what mask is the real one? And how do you find that real version?
That's a really good question. Again, I'll go back to, just to give it a relatable story, I'll go back to my recovery. When I first walked in, the chap that got me clean, he's a very good friend of mine now. He's my mentor in studying, Matthew Idle, his name is. And he asked me a question as soon as I sat down. He was like, what's going on, Spence? And I broke. Right there and then is when I broke. And that's when I understood what true surrender is. When I say cry, I'm talking proper high water. I was
snot coming out, everything.
Yeah, for real. And this was not my nature. And I'm very honest about my addiction in life. I was an absolute steroid monster, professional boxer turned dancer, and there was a lot of the same masks. But I hid behind a facade of their swear words to me, insecurity, scared, vulnerability, absolutely not. And little by little, we took away the masks. And that's when, again, when you find when your internal matches your external. So rather than putting on a show, my sister said something to me once. Let me give this as an analogy. I always prided myself on my appearance. Always dressed the best. Always had to have the best shirt, the best shoes. Always kept myself in shape, the funkiest haircut, sunbeds, all that kind of nonsense. And it was a Christmas time. My sister's very special to me. She raised us after our father passed, to be me and my brothers. And she said, do you know something? She calls me Stinker. I shouldn't really say it on the podcast, but she does. You know, you think you're like that perfectly wrapped gift under the tree that everyone looks at when they walk in. And I remember my ego overinflated. I'm like, yeah, I think I look great today wearing this. And she kept a poker face and she went, you know, when you open that present, it's broken inside. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Because at this stage, I was kind of losing the control of everyday life to alcohol and drugs. Not that I, again, didn't see it as a problem, just saw it as part and parcel of what I did, as involved in hotels and restaurants and bars. And it was kind of a facade to be seen, you know, always had a drink in my hand. And yeah, it was at that point, I'm beginning to come to terms with the fact it was an issue. It was becoming an issue. It was affecting my daily life, my relationships with my children, my partner, my stepchildren. And it was, I knew something had to give, but I didn't know what it was at that time because of the masks. As you go through the process of recovery, I myself adopt a principle with the people I work with today. It's never about drinking drugs. Any addict, that you show me an addict, I'll show you trauma. There's something underneath that they don't know how to fix or they're too scared to fix. When you start removing masks, and again, your internal, for me, matched my external. So gone were the suits, gone was the haircut, the shiny watches, the earrings, all that stuff went very quickly. I became very humble, very grateful for what I did have. And I started to identify, for the first time in my life, I have to say, as a 45-year-old man, who I truly was. And this led me into the work that I'm in today. But yeah, I think it takes a lot of soul searching, a lot of honesty. I mean, brutal, unflinching honesty with yourself every step of the way. It's very easy when you're in a place of despair with mental health that you can focus on your defects. It's almost comfortable because you're in that place where, you know, woe is me, poor me. We have a phrase that I like to bring a bit of humour with my clients that are very, very low because we're unable to laugh at ourselves. So I'll often say, poor me, poor me, poor me another. It's an excuse. It's an excuse to act out on those behaviours. As we start to recognise our defects and truly master ourselves and be aware of our defects, and that isn't to say that I did that wrong, shouldn't really have done that. We own it. We promptly admit our wrongs. We make our amends. It gives us that internal peace. But then there's a struggle to accept our assets because we become so embedded in our defects. So if someone pays us a compliment, for example, it's very hard just to go, thank you. It's always easier to give a story. Yeah, well, you know, I work hard to be like this. Really, it's like, no, stop. And that's, as I say, when your internal starts to match your external, that's when you start being in control of your behaviours, and that's where you start controlling mental fatigue, which is often where mental illness comes from.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true as well. And I think a lot of people nowadays, they are trying to find themselves really. And even the whole mask thing, I was speaking to someone yesterday, and from my own perspective, I felt like I had all these masks, and it was like something off a movie, and I was seeing myself down the street, very, very far away, without the mask.
Yeah.
And he was like the real version of myself.
And what did you feel when you saw that?
Oh, I felt like he's so far, but he's still within distance, that I can still see him. The fact that I could see him was a big step.
Yeah, positivity, right?
So yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's a strange feeling.
Reaching distance. It's good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
You know, another question I wanted to ask as well, and I think this is on a lot of people's mind, especially coming into, you know, the new year. A lot of people want different things. You know, either they want to get more healthy, but I think the main question on a lot of people's mind is like, when I ask my friends, like, what do they want? And they're like, I just want to be happy. And it's a hard question because, you know, everyone does want to be happy, but you can't be happy all the time. I think it's very difficult thing to aspire to be. So I wanted to ask, what do you think really means by when we say we want happiness? What do you think we mean by that?
My honest answer to that question is quite simply, happiness doesn't come from joy. It's a misconception. It's, you know, you can buy yourself a new watch, new car, buy a handbag for the other, go have a nice holiday, short-lived. Human beings, by definition, are very basic. We seek pleasure, we avoid pain. When we seek pleasure, that usually has a come-down effect because it's short-lived. If you buy yourself a wonderful new shiny car, in a short matter of time, you haven't taken it to the car wash every week. There are coffee cups on the inside. It's just to get from A to B. If you buy yourself a nice watch, you will aspire to have a better watch.
It's like the new pair of trainers. You look after them so well the first few times, that you just throw them.
Then after a while, you're not undoing the laces, you're kicking them off.
They get creases, everything.
Yeah, because it's just a thing. It's just a thing. Happiness doesn't come from joy. Happiness comes from peace. When you are at peace with yourself, and again, this will come down to being brutally, unflinchingly honest with yourself at every step of the way. Now, going back to a time when I was in the chaos, people will refer to it as, if somebody would say something negative about me, one, I would put on a show, right? Whatever, it would eat me alive. I'm one of those people that can walk into a room of 100 people, 99 of them can say hello to me, and I'll spend the rest of the night fixated on the one that didn't. Because by nature, that is the pain of being human. You're looking for validation. You're seeking external reassurance. No, that's not happiness. Happiness comes from peace. And again, this is when your internal matches your external.
I wanted to ask, so I know you said a thing with peace. I know it might be a bit personal, but how long did it take you to find that?
Well, in truth, I would say the moment I surrendered, the moment I walked into that rehab facility in Spain, and I only went for show. My best friend took me, my other half had arranged it, and I just kind of went through the motions. The moment I met Matthew, I just knew there was someone that I could trust. I could be unflinchingly honest with myself, warts and all, and I knew I wouldn't be judged. As I went through the process, I came out of the rehab after a couple of months, and although I'm now 6 years into my journey, I declare myself as 5 years clean. I didn't drink or use drugs in the first year, but I relapsed on all my behaviours. I didn't address the fundamental issue, which was my ego, because it was protecting me still. So going into the process, one of the triggers for me was the anniversary of my father passing, which is the 13th of September. Just after the first year of recovery, it was my other half that pointed out to me, she went, I'm really proud of you today. I'm like, why? You haven't acted out at all. I'm like, okay. Here's me thinking I'm in control of all my emotions and behaviours. And I was like, right, you do know what today is. And I felt guilt and shame at that point because I hadn't remembered the passing of my father, which was a big thing for me every year. But then I realised something. I'm not just doing recovery anymore. I have recovery. Wow. I have an internal peace. I'm living by my values and my beliefs. Upon this realisation, I would say over the next 2 years, if I'm going to be honest, rather treacherous. There were times when I doubted myself. Recovery isn't rainbow and sunshines. It can be very hard work sometimes if you're doing it properly and you're being honest with yourself. So I would say over the past 3 years, the inner peace has become stronger and stronger and stronger. I don't think I'm truly at peace with myself yet, but I'm certainly a million times better than when I was. And if I compare me now to my old me, that old me would be very proud of where I am because, trust me, that old me would give anything to be where I am now. So I had to remind myself of that, remain humble, remain grateful at every turn. And I think that is also the basis of peace, to have humility, to be grateful for the small things, appreciate what you do have. Because there are a lot of people out there that deem what we have as the utmost luxury. Whether it's clean socks to put on in the morning, a bed to put your head down at night, a plate of food at night. It's the simple things. And this is what gives me,
aspect. Yeah,
right? Absolutely. And this is what gives me peace, to know that I am very fortunate with my journey or struggles and the education that I put myself through in regards to psychology. I can be of service to people. That gives me peace because all what I did before was ego-based. Everyone I spoke to, they had to serve a purpose. Every business venture I went to, or every job that I did, or every fight that I had coming up, or competition within the dancing arena that I was in, it was all ego-based. And it's just accolade I was seeking. It wasn't anything for me, not really. Now I have true purpose. It means something to me. That's peace.
How do you take the first step? Because I know for a lot of people in anything, whether it's wanting to improve themselves, going to the gym for the first time, or wanting to hit a goal for the year, that's that first step. How do you hit it? How do you
It is
take
actually
the leap?
the first step in principle. It's literally the first step. A lot of what we're aiming for is unknown. If we're going to a new territory or it's a new goal or something we may have failed at before that we're reluctant to get back into, take the first step. The first step's the hardest step. We don't know what follows after that step, but you take another step after that, and then you take another step after that. Start small. Don't put yourself under too much pressure to start with because you're inevitably going to fail. Interesting enough, you mentioned something a minute ago about New Year, new time. Everyone set themselves New Year's resolutions. Absolutely not. It's the worst time of the year to do it. For one, it's just a date in the calendar. Okay, it's New Year's Day. I'm going to be the new me. Why waiting to the new year? Why not now?
Start now, yeah.
But if you do give yourself a start date for this, do it in the spring. Because by definition, New Year's, the morning to dark, the evening to dark. People do suffer from SAD, seasonal affectional disorder. It's a thing. People don't realize it, but it's an actual thing. It can leave you fatigued very easily. Spring, the days are longer. There's new bulbs coming out the ground. There's lambs. There's the freshness in the air. That will inspire you and motivate you to keep going.
There's a quote that reminded me actually of a quote I used to hear. Someone said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
Absolutely right.
So yeah.
What a great
completely
phrase
agree.
that is.
It's an amazing quote.
Because, you know, we do often look back and go, oh, I wish.
Yeah.
Never live on regret. I've been through, if I shared my whole life story, it would curl your toes, you know, but I'm so a million other people, got a lot worse story than I am. Don't live in regret, because that journey I was given, we don't choose the music we're played to in life. We just choose how we dance to it. So,
Wow.
For real, right? Because how it got me to where I am, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be able to offer guidance and assistance to people that I know I can help. I can actually be of service today. That's a purpose. That's something that I hold very, very dear, you know? And I don't regret anything I've been through. I don't really regret anything I've ever done to people. I've certainly made amends for some of the things I've done, and I will probably continue to have to make amends to people that I know.
How do you get over that mentality though? Because, you know, with a lot of, similar to you, I've obviously gone through so many different aspects of my life, and I don't regret any of it. But there was a period in my life where I did have that, you know, victim mentality.
Sure.
And one of my friends and one of my coaches at the time, he said, you know, your life is a book, your life is a story, and every single day you're writing the new page. And at the end of that book, you can either play the victim, you know, moaning about why me, why is this happening to me? You can play the villain and everybody else's stories, blaming other people, or you could play the hero, which had all the bad stuff, and then, you know, came up after the end of it. So how do you get over that victim mentality at the very start?
One of the areas I specialize in is neuro-linguistic programming. Sounds very complex for those that don't know what it is. It's really not. Neuro is, of course, your brain. Linguistic is speech, how we talk, and programming should be called reprogramming. So we reprogram how we speak to ourselves. For example, one of the things you just said is why? Why me? Why is it always me? Stop asking why. Why is a backward-looking question? Why? Why did that happen? Rephrase it with how. How can I make sure this doesn't happen? How can I change the way I view things? It's a forward-looking question. I'll do a little experiment with you. This is about neuro-linguistic programming, okay? So I'll ask a sentence. I want you to repeat the sentence to me and tell me how you feel, okay? I need to go to the gym today.
I need to go to the gym today.
And what does that invoke inside?
Like I need to have to go. Like it's...
I have to.
I have to.
I'm not looking after myself properly. No. I have a bit of anxiety and fear about my image.
It's like when I haven't been for a few days and I'm like, I need to go.
Actually, I'm really not taking good care of myself. Yeah. Okay, let's rephrase it. I get to go to the gym today.
I get to go to the gym today.
What does that feel like?
You're grateful that you can even go in the first place.
There
Definitely.
You go. It's full of gratitude. I'm able-bodied.
Even your body just felt that.
For real.
Your body, like...
Your whole posture changes immediately.
My back was going in, everything. Better posture.
Absolutely. You know, my head's on my shoulders. I've got 2 arms and 2 legs. I can drive. I can afford a gym membership. I can physically go and look after myself today. A bit of me time. It's very different to I need to go to the gym. I get to go to the gym. Do another one. I need to spend some time with my family.
I need to spend some time with my family.
What does that make you feel?
Maybe I haven't spent enough. I feel guilty.
Yeah, neglectful, guilty, bit of shame. Okay, I get to spend some time with my family today.
I get to spend some time with my family today.
How lucky are we, Ash? Yeah. Really, we actually go and get to sit with our parents or our loved ones and enjoy their conversation and be a part of something that gives us unity that every human being seeks. So often, with that first step, or how do we stop the mentality? We change the way we speak to ourselves. And I always say this to almost every client I have, to be fair, whether they're an addict, they're in a couples, they're an entrepreneur that's lost everything, their ego's got the better of them. Always ask yourself a question with compassionate curiosity. Don't beat yourself up. Not why? That serves no purpose. Worrying, constantly living in the past, it doesn't serve anything. Nothing's going to change. It's gone. Yesterdays are our lessons. Tomorrow is our motivation. Today's a gift. And that's why we call it the present. Have that mentality, and ask yourself kindly. So if you do want to ask yourself a why question, if you're like, why have I done that again? God, rub it. Ask yourself nicely, why? Why have I done that again? Because let me tell you, every issue that we face in life, we have it within us to fix. We just don't know how. But if we ask ourselves in the right way, we're opening the well of internal knowledge. And this is where true authenticity comes into it. This is when we really start to be at peace with who we are, because we're asking ourselves a question. We're not asking someone else to validate our feelings or give me the answer to something. No. My job as a psychologist or therapist or counselor or neuroscience coach, any of the things you label me with, my job is not to give you a solution, but I can absolutely help you find that solution. I will steer the boat, but you've got to paddle. And I will help you bring your subconscious mind into your conscious mind. I tried an experiment recently with someone that's very close to me, because I can't give therapy to people that are close to you because you're too attached.
Of course, yeah.
I want this and I want that. So write down the things that you want to be. And they did. I said, you're already those things because you've said it. It's internal. It's inside you. That's what you want to be. You can't manufacture who you want to be for everyone else. It doesn't matter about everyone else. We are powerless over people, places, and things. We are only responsible for how we react to things. And that is how you stop the victim mentality.
Wow. You know, one of the things that you just said there, that inner voice, we already know what we are. But one of the questions I wanted to ask is, sometimes, maybe me personally as well, I love cartoons.
Right.
You know, that's always been my thing since I was a kid. I love the animation, the style, everything. But one thing I noticed in some cartoons is that you have the angel on one side and the devil on the other side. And I like to imagine that devil is that inner criticism, the one that's telling you, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like, what if this, what if? But is there any tools that we can use to maybe quieten down that voice, that little demon that's telling us, you know?
Absolutely. Remind yourself you have a choice today. We have a choice. We can complain about the cards we've been dealt. You know, we can complain about things that happen to be the poor me mentality again, or I'm the victim. I'll share a story with you. It's a very powerful story. But there are two twin boys. They're both conceived at the same time, naturally. They're twins. They're in the same womb. The mother creates a wonderful environment for them. She looks after herself. She's really takes rest. She keeps herself active. She's always massaging her tummy. The father creates a wonderful environment for the boys that are inside the womb, you know, making sure mum's okay. The house has got incense. It's relaxing. The food's good. He's taking care of everything financially. The boys come into the world, rarity. They're both born naturally, exactly the same time, but they're not Siamese. It's a rare thing. Now, the mother developed a concept where she picked up both the babies at the same time, because neuroscience will tell you that if you pick one twin up first, repeatedly, it gives the other one inferiority complex, even as a baby, because eyes dilate, and the babies do register this. It's just been researched. Now,
I never thought about that.
No, it's crazy. It's
crazy.
one of those
Just
things that during this research that I do, my work that I do, it's wow, the things you find out. But so these boys, they're brought into the world at the same time. Everything's on paper perfectly fine. Mother and father are stable. Grandparents are wonderful. Everyone's involved. The aunties, the cousins, their uncles. Everything's great. They go to school. The only difference between the boys is one likes brunette women, the other one likes blondes. So there's never any conflict. They just don't conflict. They're best of friends. They have the same hobbies. They do the same sports. They go off into Ivy League universities. Normally with university, again, going back to addiction, this is often where it manifests. Both boys go off a little bit. They're drinking a bit too much. They're partying a bit too much. They're womanizing a bit too much. But each other are so close, they put each other back and say, okay, we've had our fun. They both go off into wonderful careers. They've got their own families now. Everything is just wonderful. And bang, the whole family is wiped out in a car accident. That's traumatic. It's a traumatic event. What is traumatic is the event. It's not the trauma. It's how we internalize it. So twin A goes off on a tangent. He cannot handle it. He cannot take the pain. So why? Why could this happen to my perfect life? My parents, my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, they're gone. I'm abandoned. I feel lost. He goes right off the rails. Twin B, however, goes the opposite way. He gets all the extended family in from around the world, and he brings them all over together and gives them a beautiful send-off. Now, he has not got time to bring back twin A. He did it before. He can't do it this time. He's got to focus on his family. What's the difference there?
Mindset and choice, right?
Choice. Now, here's the thing. Who are the twins? You're the twins. I'm the twins. Everyone listening to this individually are the twins. We have a choice. Don't get me wrong. If something as traumatic as that, it's a very good excuse. But it is still an excuse. You can learn to rise from the ashes, or you can learn to lay down and let life bury you. We have a choice in life. And as brutal as it may sound, if you want true authenticity and you truly want to be at peace with yourself, this is where the hard work starts. It's not about what's happened. It's about what you do about it now.
Would I right in being saying as well, you know, that story really reflects in the different parts of my life as well.
Okay.
And would you say that time is definitely a factor as well? Because I know when I was younger, my mindset, what it is now, was very, very different at that age. So I think giving yourself time as well to...
Time is really important to give yourself time, to have patience. I'm often asked the question, actually, what's more importantly, the journey or the destination? It's actually, to me anyway, it's neither. It's the person you become on the journey. One of the key elements of that is patience. When you're learning to be patient, is who you become within that journey of patience. It's mind-boggling what you can manage in terms of bad news or setbacks. Time is a wonderful thing. They say time's a healer. It is, for the most part, but they say you can forgive, but you can't forget. There's an art to forgetting what you can't forgive. There really is an art to it, and it's very similar to having the courage to look forward and the strength in not looking back. But at the same time as saying that, if you master it, you can look back, you can weaponize your defects, you can turn them into assets because you know you don't want to be that way. You don't want to be that type of person. You understand how you can come across to somebody else. Nobody's perfect, and nobody should want to be perfect. How boring would the world be if we're all perfect? I certainly don't want to be perfect, but I am big enough with time, become mature enough to accept when I do wrong. There's an issue recently. It's just it's quite a big deal, but it's quite not a big deal if you want to look. It depends how you want to look at it. But my other half and I were in the car. There's a conversation happened, and I acted up out of pure ego and pride. And I went off to the gym, slammed some more heavy weights than I would normally, just take out the aggression. And while I'm training, I'm thinking to myself, why are you training this hard when you don't train this hard every day? Why don't you push yourself like this every day? It's because my ego got the better of me. So I went home and I promptly admitted my wrongs and I made amends. That's growth. That's maturity. That only comes in time. As I say, no one's perfect and we should never strive for perfection. Just be the best you can be in that moment, in that day, and you're winning.
My next question is, how, I know especially in the world that we're living in, there's a lot of, we're very built into our emotions, sometimes they can completely overcome us. And what do you think the part of emotional intelligence has to do with all of this, and why do you think it's so important?
Emotions are a crazy thing, Where would we be as a human being without our emotions? We'd be a plant in the corner or a robot. Emotions are important, and it's important to let people express their emotions. And for one, you can learn a lot from somebody's emotions. Another area of my expertise is body language, but it's not just how the body moves, it's how we speak, when we speak, the tone of voice, the pitch, the pauses, the change. And a lot of this, you can read someone's emotions. For me, however, when you want to control your emotions, I'm a big fan of Stoicism. The Stoic lives of Marcus Aurelius, Socrates, Pythagoras. And it doesn't say vanquish your emotions. It says harness your emotions. Let your emotions come through, but don't let your emotions control you. It's food for thought for me. Here's another exercise I always do. There's a phrase where they say, if you're in control of your emotions, you're in control of your behaviors. Now, if we imagine this as a bridge, okay, emotions leading to behaviors, and it's over a river. If you look at that from a distance, there's a reflection in that river. And actually, by definition, if you're in control of your behaviors, you're already in control of your emotions because you're living by your values and your beliefs. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Absolutely. Yeah. And all we can actually truly do is be the master of ourselves. We're powerless over how people react and respond, but we can be in control of our emotions.
What about setbacks? A period of your life that, let's say you're using all these skills, using all these tools, and they're going really, really well, but then you have a setback. What's the best way to get back?
Wow, what a great question. Here's the thing. Now, when I refer to my answer to this will be spirituality, okay? People get this confused, okay? I'm not talking about religion. If you want quite a bulletproof definition, religion is for those that are scared of hell. Spirituality is for those that have been to hell. Whatever your hell might be. Could be the loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship. It often revolves around loss of oneself, loss of one's direction. But whatever your interpretation of hell is, everything happens for a reason. Everything. Whether you believe in the God of your understanding or divine inspiration is irrelevant. Your energy fields that you give, by the way, your thoughts can be measured. It's scientifically proven. They have a frequency. Okay, negativity is a lot more powerful than positive thoughts, and it's much more difficult to channel all your thoughts into a positive aspect. It takes time, it takes a process, a lot of work. Setback, embrace it because it's learning. Now, whatever that setback might be, it could be financial, It could be emotional. It could be those that have had 12 years of recovery. They've remained abstinent from all kinds of drugs and alcohol, so have a relapse. And then, oh my God, what a waste of time. I'm a loser. There's no point. No. Does not define you. How you respond to that setback, that does define you. You know, take it by the horns. If you've had a setback, learn from it. I remember a story once. It's one of my favourite stories, actually. Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, when he first went into the major leagues, and there's a lot of hopes riding on Kobe, and he turned out to be the boy. But at this stage, he was like, he's the boy. And he had it all. He had the looks, he had the charisma, he had the skill, he had the mindset. It came to a final game. They were 2 points. They were 2 points down, so they needed a 3-pointer, basically. If you know basketball, you know there's the outside area where you get 3 points. So the team have moved the other team to one side by, routines and structures, fed in the ball, and he's popped it, and he's missed. And the time's running out now. And by sheer will, they've done it again before the other team got to score. They put him to the other side, and he's missed. And again, by sheer will, they've got the team out now on their offense, pulled him down, the team are defending, and they fed it to Kobe in his perfect spot. He's directly opposite the basket. He's missed. Now, they lost. The commentators were talking. It's one of my favourite stories ever, this is. The commentators are talking. As they're talking, there's Kobe in the background. He's sat there with his head in his hands. And they're going, God, he must feel awful. All this pressure, all this weight on this boy. Imagine how he feels. Oh, my God. By this point, the teams have left. Most of the coaches have left. The crowd are leaving. Kobe walks out. And one of the reporters grabbed him and says, Kobe, can I have a quick word? Oh, you must feel awful. And he looked at it. Honestly, you can Google this. He looked YouTube it. And he looked at me and went, why? He went, well, I saw you with your head in your hands. He went, yeah, working out why I went wrong. He said, that won't happen again. Today's a win. Now, you think about that. His ego was in check.
Mindset.
His mentality was in check. Realistically, his whole world, all this facade that had been put around him, he's powerless over what people think of him, not powerless over himself. So even in defeat, he won. That's mindset. That's taking a setback and using it to benefit you. And he's able to contemplate, and he's playing the plays over. And I don't know. I've never met the guy, and I haven't speak to him about this, but he must have been going, was it nerves? Was it ego? Was I in the wrong angle? Did I take my height? He must have dissected each individual step as his art of basketball. You can put this in any field of life. Then he's like, what? And for whatever it might be, he came to his conclusion. And now this guy went on to be world renowned, probably up there, if not, I don't want to say better than Michael Jordan, but certainly up there.
He's up there.
Yeah, for real. And that's taking a setback and utilising it to move forward. That's true strength, real strength.
Coming back to you, this is just the question that I have just out of wanted to ask you. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from a client?
From a client?
That you didn't already know. Maybe you learned something completely new, like a new aspect, a new way of thinking.
Interesting. I learn a lot from my clients. I do, honestly. They really do keep.
Yeah, you must learn a lot every day.
It's a wonderful way to live your life, man. The knowledge you impart and the knowledge you share, rather, or collect. Best thing I've learned from a client is never give up. Never give up. There's one guy, I won't mention him by name for confidentiality. He has a very high-powered job, rubbing shoulders with celebrities all the time. And unfortunately for him, he's a chef. The line of work that he's in, it is notoriously surrounded by cocaine use. He cooks for the elite, as they see themselves, celebrities. There's a lot of parties, it's around a lot of cocaine. And one of the key areas of sad things for this guy is he works away from home. So it's what we call dislocation. He doesn't have, for want of a better description, I certainly refer to my other half as my handbrake. She pulls me back when I'm going off on one. So he doesn't have his safety net that pulls him back. Like, just be careful, just be mindful. We're in constant contact with each other. He's in constant contact with a lot of people that I know that are in the recovery game. He is active in his recovery. But sometimes, and sadly, over the 3 or 4 years I've known him, he's fallen a few times. He's relapsed. And when he relapses hard. So what that tells you is he's doing his recovery. He's working hard at it, but he puts himself in a position. Well, I say he's actually taken himself out of that arena now, so he's taking steps. But one thing about this guy that I've always admired, he never gives up. He never lets that relapse define him. How he responds to it is I've said that to him before, it's how you respond. And my goodness, he gets back on the horse and every time it's a little bit cleaner time, more clean time. And now I think it's certainly over the year mark, around the 14, 15 month mark, he's been clean, which is a big deal. You know, this guy's, his whole adolescence was very much a party animal. He and his wife would party all the time, and they all party with friends. They're very, very close, wonderful family. And then when his line of work, it became a daily occurrence where he was around it. Even for him to take the stride to stop and seek help was a big deal. So I was saying earlier about the first step is always the hardest step. You know, he admitted he couldn't carry on like this. He said the strength to say no more. He had the courage to admit that he couldn't do it on his own. And he came into an arena where he learns the discipline. But he's dislocated from that discipline more often than he's not. So when he's around the right people, he's in his recovery. And when he's dislocated from that, he's kind of vulnerable and on his own. And he's learned that for himself. This is the important thing. Learned it for himself. And he's now making strides where he isn't putting himself in that position. But again, I have to say, the thing I've learned and adore about him, and I have learned, it is definitely a lesson worth sharing with everyone. No matter how hard it is, no matter how hard you beat upon yourself for doing something, you know you're going to regret before you do it, but you still do it, and you come out of it, poor me, stop. And he stopped. He's made strides, but the boy never gave up. And he now has this is the difference, as I say before, between doing recovery and having recovery. He now has his recovery. It's very good. It's very inspiring.
Nice. So yeah, my next question is, in terms of when someone feels stuck in life and they don't know where to start. Where do you think is the best place to start when you feel stuck, when you feel overwhelmed?
Let's try a little exercise, okay? Put your right arm as far as it'll go. No, I mean, really go for it. Why didn't you do that the first time? Always reach beyond your grasp. Always strive. When you think you've hit a barrier or there's no more or you've gotten much out of something you can possibly get, try harder. Just try a little bit harder. And if you are genuine in a place where you feel stuck, reevaluate. Take a second to reset and rethink things. Are you fulfilled? I don't mean what you're giving to people and what people are giving to you. Are you fulfilled with yourself? Are you being truly authentic to yourself? Often you'll find people in careers, they've been there for years and they hate it. What a sad way to live. That'd be awful, wouldn't it? You know, I often, again, I see it's a bit negative, this, but we spend a lot of time in Spain. My daughters live there. And if I'm over in Portimão and you see a bright yellow Ferrari pull up and a 50-year-old guy gets out of a 20-year-old girlfriend, I'm like, man, I'd hate to have his self-esteem. I would. I know it's quite a detrimental, damaging thing to say, but you know what? It's the truth. Because who are you really? That's not authentic. That's not really... That's all living for show and bravado. So where are you in all this? And there is nothing wrong, by the way, with being healthy selfish. And what I mean by that is, if you're sitting, often when you get to this stage in life where you think, you know, where am I? What am I doing? More often than not, there's an element of people pleasing in there. You're starting to get regretful. And it's nice to be nice. It's lovely to say yes to people, not when it involves saying no to yourself. So when you're looking at yourself and you're reevaluating, there is no problem in being healthy selfish. So, for example, let's say something really menial, like you make yourself a cup of coffee and it's just the right colour. You've got it just right. And the steam's just starting to be so strong and you think it's just about ready to drink and your phone rings. There's nothing wrong with it. Look at it. As long as it's not an emergency. I know. Taking this next 10 minutes for me to think about me. Cancel out all the external noise. And you'll find yourself seeing... People as well, by the way, will often say, I can't change that now. I'm at an age now. No, I've done this.
That reminds me a lot of my dad. He's like, I'm too old for it now.
Yeah, I'm too old for that. You can't
it's funny you said that. We went to, I might even put the video up on the podcast, but obviously we actually met at the gym. I remember we were at the gym and I was mid-workout. And I like to do this thing. I think it's my sales background. I'm like, damn, like, you're huge. How do I get to how do I get like you? And it was actually funny the way we met because obviously we were just talking about the gym at the time, and then you were telling me about like mindset, and I remember telling my friend, I was like, oh, you know, this is the first time that I've gone to the gym for more than, 2 weeks, and I haven't given up. And Spencer came up to me and he was like, why do you think that is? And I was completely shocked because I was like, oh, hello, you're still in the conversation.
Yeah.
And then obviously we got to talking and anyway, going on to the point of my dad, I was telling my dad, you know what, let's start the gym, like me and you as well. Like, I know he's I think he's always wanted to go, but he's always used his age as like, I'm just too old. I can't do it anymore. My body's not the way it is. But I was like, no, come. And the first time he didn't. And then I asked him again and I was like, no, like, come on, let's just go. Just come for an hour. He's like, no, I really, really can't. I can't do it. And so I was like, no worries. And I wasn't going to ask him again. I was going to be like, you know what? He clearly doesn't want to. But I think sometimes it's important to help someone a little bit, because some people can't really take that first step. And I know
Absolutely.
for me, in my journey, I couldn't take the first step. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was my ego, but I needed that help. And I was like, let me ask him one more time. And I was like, Dad, listen, I'm not going to ask you again. This is the last time. I know it's going to be good for you. I know you're going to enjoy it. Let's go. And he was like, I'll go. Let's just give it a shot.
Wow.
And then he came, and that was the first time my dad's been in the gym for years, more than 10. And he was doing the exercises, and he was like, "This is great. This is really good. Like, I feel great." And he, all of a sudden, his persona changed.
Yeah, for sure.
He started feeling like a little kid again. He was doing his. It was push day that day, so he was doing like these exercises and everything. And he was like, "I should come to the gym more often." Like
For sure.
I was scared. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't say that, but I know that's what his emotion was. He was scared to go. Maybe he was also scared. Maybe people are going to judge him because of his age and stuff like that. And yeah, I think coming back into full circle, it is all about that first step.
100%. Listen, men fear more in their mind than when anything can happen in reality. It's just the mark of a man. It's what men do. We are, in traditional senses, the provider, the protector. And he's fearful. It's hard. It's hard. I say a lot in my couples therapy to women, just be careful. Be careful how you judge and treat a man, because if he's fearful of coming home and talking to you honestly about what he's been through, you don't know what that does to a man. A man can fear so much more in his mind. In terms of training, healthy body, healthy mind. And with your dad training before, and having a young, fit son, there will be an element of I'm going to be judged. But listen, for all the old boys out there that are listening to this, let me tell you, you don't stop because you get old. You get old because you stop. It's as simple as that. I'm 52, probably not in the best shape of my life, but I'm certainly up there. I'm not 21 anymore. I can't spin on my head and do somersaults like I used to, but I'm still active. I'm still looking well for my age, and again, going back to the stoicism thing I mentioned earlier, Marcus Aurelius and Socrates, they'll all tell you the same thing. If a man doesn't push himself to his best ability physically and mentally, is he truly living? Because I'm not fearful of dying. I'll tell you this. I am fearful of not living. And that doesn't mean my life ending. It means not being present and living my best life now. That's the only thing I'm fearful of. That gives me purpose. That gives me peace. And I try to be the best I can be each day. And it does include a very strict routine of training. Because my job, you can have a lot of compassion fatigue. It can be very overwhelming, a lot of research, a lot of fun. There's a lot of great things that happen in it. But I also need to be able to shut off and spend some time with my family and have some boundaries and balance. The gym is great for me for that. It just gives me that element of, it's just me for an hour, doing what I love.
That reminds me of something, actually. It's so weird, and it's so important to understand that you don't know what's going on in people's lives, and you don't know where they are mentally. And I learned this a few years ago. So for people that don't know, my background is door-to-door sales. And I did that for 4 years. And when I first got into door-to-door sales, I remember I was knocking doors, and thankfully I got very lucky. I got very good customers. But there was an instance where I had a very bad interaction on doors where he was like, "Oh, F off, like, get a real job." And I was with my coach who was training me in door, because I'd never done door-to-door before. And I was telling her, I was like, "Oh, he was a bit rude, right?" I was like, and she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, the guy that we just spoke to," because she was very calm. And I was like, "Well, yeah," he was a bit of a dick, right? Like, and she was like, "Let me tell you something." And we went and we sat down on a bench, and he was like, "Why do you think he said that?" And he's like, "Well, he clearly didn't like me." And she's like, "Did he though?" And well, I'm like, "Yeah, clearly." He's like, "But how do you know that? He doesn't know you. He doesn't know your name. Doesn't know who you are." A lot of times in people's lives, they're going through something.
Absolutely.
And she was like, maybe he just got off the phone with his wife, and God forbid he had something wrong with his son. His son's really ill, or he's just split up with his partner and he's going through a really, really bad period. And unfortunately, I was the next person that he saw.
Absolutely right.
So I think it's also giving people, being patient with people.
again, going back to what I say about the question I'm often asked, is it what's more important, the journey or the destination? It's not. It's neither. For me, anyway. This is just me. It's the person you become on that journey. One of the elements of that is patience, because the person you become on a journey of patience is exactly that. You don't know what someone else is going through. It's nice to be nice. It is. Always extend a courteous hand or a smile to someone. You don't know what people are going through. Often people will suffer in silence. That's the real damage. People that vocalize it, okay, it can be a bit brash, it can be a bit rude, it can be upsetting. But for me, I'll always ask myself, what are you going through? What's that really about? Because obviously with my line of work and what I study and research, I understand. But that was great advice from that woman, for real. You know,
and it even came up the other day. Like I had another interaction with someone rude, and they ended up coming back the next day. They were like, you know what? I'm really sorry. I was having a really bad, because I was very nice. I was like, hey, no worries. And she came back and she was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to treat you like that. I was just going through a really bad day yesterday.
Incredible internal strength right there. Do you know what's interesting? When you tell me that story about that woman that came back to see you and apologise, we see it more and more now. People are becoming, yes, mental health is becoming more of a pressing issue, but people are talking about it more, which the more the merrier.
Yeah,
keep it going, you know, for real. But in terms of that lady owning it and coming back, we're seeing more of that now. People who haven't been through a process are becoming aware of how their behaviours impact on others. And more importantly, she probably did that for herself. She probably came back and apologised to you for her own self-worth. And I applaud that. That's big. Real big, yeah.
I think that's time. But I wanted to say thank you so much.
Oh, bro, it's been an absolute pleasure.
For hopping
Keep
onto the
doing what you're doing.
podcast.
This stuff's important.
Yeah, this is amazing. And, you know, I took away a lot of things there, you know, that really finding yourself, finding that fulfillment, being kind to others and just taking it a step at a time. I think that's so important.
It's nice to be nice. It is, honestly. And it's great to say yes to people. Not when it means you're saying no to yourself. Bear that in mind. Because, you know, true love, true self-love comes from inside. And no one else can give you that. Not your job, not your parents, not even your children. No financial stability. But I will leave it with this if we're closing off. Some of the areas I work in are entrepreneurs, people that have done well or have lost it or they're on the way up. I asked somebody a question the other day. What's the most important thing to you? And before I even finished the sentence, went, money's everything. And I looked at him and I said, okay, you can have the big house and holiday homes overseas, an array of cars, shiny watches, investment accounts, all that kind of kids in private school. Careful what you wish for, because one day you're going to meet someone that's spiritually wealthy and you'll realise just how poor you actually are.
Thank you so
much. This is
much.
where the strength and money is. It's where the value is.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just for the people at home, if they want to find a little bit more about your work or anything, where can we find you?
You can't.
Yeah.
I'm all about. It will be up and running soon. Aquile is Latin for eagle, and it's a life reborn. The reason I choose that, by the way, is to share this with you. The eagle. We know the eagle is the brave warrior of the sky. What people don't know is every 5 to 7 years, an eagle will fly to midway of a mountain and it rips out its talons. It's painful, excruciating, almost like it's ripping out our fingernails. Then it'll fly higher and it'll smash his beak off onto a rock so it's blunted. A bit like we rip our own teeth out. Painful, excruciating. But then they grow back stronger and stronger. And when it comes out sharper and stronger, and when you hear that iconic scream as the eagle goes through the air, it's a cry of a warrior. It's a life reborn. Wow. And that's the name of my clinic, which is up and running now. I'm not on social media or anything at that stage, but I'll keep you posted with it all for real. But I'll leave you with a closing sentiment when you're looking at yourself and you're on about reset, and you're on about how do we change things, how do we take that first step. Each and every one of us on this planet have 2 lives. The second life begins the moment you realise you have just one. Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show.